Network, host of the African History Network show. I'm a talk show host, researcher, lecturer, writer, and historian. So it is Thursday, March 19th, 2020, and we are live. Everybody share this broadcast on your Facebook page and on YouTube. Hope everybody's doing well. We're broadcasting on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep, and we're on Twitter, the AHN Show on Twitter as well, and my personal Facebook page also. All right, so I wanted to deal with these topics here, do an update on the coronavirus. Okay. We see testing, more testing is being done. We see the numbers of reported cases skyrocket dealing with the coronavirus. So I want to deal with some new information that came out in the past couple of days, also dealing with COVID-19. Younger adults make up a big portion of coronavirus hospitalizations in the US. Younger adults make up a big portion of hospitalizations in the US. And then we see that a Republican senator, Senator Richard Burr of North Carolina, it's been reported that he sold up to $1.7 million in stock before the market crashed. And he's the chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee. Okay, so this is something really big here. And he may be forced to resign. There could be criminal charges behind this. But then also, right before this broadcast, we found out that a second Republican senator, Senator Kelly Loffler, who's a Republican from Georgia, she apparently sold a lot of stock right before the market crashed as well. At one of the sales, the first sale of stock jointly owned by her and her husband was sold on January 24th. Okay, so we're going to deal with this because there were warning signs. You have key Republicans as well as Donald Trump had warning signs before the coronavirus became a really crisis. Before the coronavirus became a crisis. And basically these warning signs were ignored. Okay, so we're going to deal with all of that. And then we see that the number of US cases that are reported is actually over 14,000. When we look at the tracking from Johns Hopkins University. So the number of reported cases in the US is over 14,000, and the number of deaths is over 200. Okay, it's a little over 200. And then also on Thursday, we see that Republicans released their proposed $1 trillion economic stimulus plan. Okay, their proposed $1 trillion economic stimulus plan. We'll talk a little bit about that. But New York Times has a really good article, an extensive article dealing with early warnings of a pandemic that were ignored by the Trump administration. Okay, early warnings. And we'll pull up this article here. There were warnings that were ignored by the Trump administration. Okay, so we'll deal with that as well. Okay, so everybody share this broadcast on your social media pages. African American business owners, post the name of the business, post the name of your business here in the thread of the broadcast, and we'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network as well. Okay. All right. And then also, if you'd like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, $, the AHN show, $, the AHN show through Cash App or paypal.me / the AHN show through PayPal, paypal.me / the AHN show through PayPal, or at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and click on the yellow donate button. Okay, so if we look at New York Times has a really good article. I talked about this a little bit, dealing with how new information, new studies show that millennials are a target also for COVID-19. There was a article here from, let's see, which publication was that from? There's so many articles here. I talked about this on my Wednesday. Broadcast, but it dealt with how younger people are also susceptible as well. But if we look at the reporting from the New York Times, younger adults make a big of coronavirus hospitalization in US. Younger adults make up big portion of coronavirus hospitalization in US. New Center for Disease Control and prevention data shows that nearly 40% of patients sick enough to be hospitalized were 20 to 54 years old, But the risk of dying was significantly higher in older people. Okay. So early on, we were told basically the risk was to those 60 years old and older with underlying conditions. But now we find out a significant number of those who were sick enough to be hospitalized were actually those 20 to 54 years old, almost 40%. So American adults of all ages, not just those in their 70s, 80s, and 90s, are being seriously sickened by the coronavirus, according to a report on nearly 2,500 of the first recorded cases in the United States. Okay, nearly 2,500. A report dealing with nearly 2,500 of the first recorded cases in the United States. So the report issued on Wednesday, March 18th by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention found that, as in other countries, the oldest patients had the greatest likelihood of dying and of being hospitalized. But of the 508 patients known to have been hospitalized, 38% were notably younger, between the ages of 20 to 54. 38% were younger, basically between the ages of 20 to 54. And nearly half of the 121 patients who were admitted to intensive care, nearly half of the 121 patients who were admitted to intensive care units were adults under the age of 65, the CDC reported. Okay, let me pull this up here. So I have a bunch of tabs open. So nearly half of the 121 patients who were admitted to intensive care units were adults under the age of 65, the CDC reported. Now, Stephen S. Morse, M-O-R-S-C, is a professor of epidemiology at Columbia University's Mailman School of Public Health. And he said, I think everyone should be paying attention to this. It's not just going to be the elderly. There will be people age 20 and up. They do have to be careful, even if they think they're young and healthy. So this is extremely important. This is really important for African Americans between the ages of 20 to 54, because we know that African Americans are more likely to have pre-existing conditions, more likely to have diabetes, heart disease. We see diabetes among younger African Americans, like we haven't seen in previous decades, largely. Sickle cell anemia, diabetes, lupus. Okay, these all compromise your immune system and make you more vulnerable to COVID-19. Okay, you could develop pneumonia, what have you. All right, so I know I saw interviews with people who are at the beach like this past weekend, and younger people spring break. They're down in Florida. Actually, Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida refused to close the beaches. Some local mayors started closing the beaches because this is an easy way for the coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2, to spread. Okay. So, and then at the White House press conference on Wednesday, March 18th, this was talked about as well. The Dr. Birx mentioned this, and I talked about it also in my Wednesday broadcast. How's everybody doing on YouTube? Everybody share this broadcast. Invite your friends to tune in also. No, it's not all China's fault. A lot of this is Donald Trump's fault. You should do more research. That person on YouTube know who they are. You're about to get blocked. All right, so let's continue here. So the findings serve to underscore an appeal issued Wednesday at the White House briefing by Dr. Deborah Birx, B-I-R-X, a physician and State Department official who was a leader of the administration's coronavirus task force, citing similar reports of young adults in Italy and France being hospitalized and needing intensive care. Dr. Birx implored the millennial generation to stop socializing in groups and to take care to protect themselves and others. She said, you have the potential then to spread it to someone who does have a condition that none of us knew about and cause them to be a disastrous outcome and cause them to have a disastrous outcome. Okay, so Dr. Anthony Fauci a couple of days ago, I think it was Monday, because Tuesday and Wednesday, well, actually Wednesday and Thursday, he was not at the press conference. And on Tuesday press conference, if I remember correctly, it was Tuesday, Donald Trump, when referencing him and introducing him, he said he's becoming, well known on TV, things like this. Anthony Fauci, the next 2 days he wasn't there. Because Donald Trump doesn't like to share the limelight. Okay. And a lot of people rather hear from Dr. Anthony Fauci than hear from Donald Trump. A lot of times when Trump speaks, the stock market, the Dow Jones Industrial Average goes down. But Dr. Anthony Fauci on, I think it was Tuesday, he also talked to younger people, he talked millennials and those younger. And he said that even though you may be healthy and you get it and you just have mild symptoms, you could end up giving it to somebody else who's a relative. It could be your mother, grandmother, what have you, and it can do them harm. And I know you don't want that to happen. Okay, so this is extremely serious. Now, in the CDC report, 20% of the hospitalized patients and 12% of the intensive care patients were between the ages of 20 and 44, basically spanning the millennial generation. Now, younger people may feel more confident about their ability to withstand a virus like this, said Dr. Christopher Carlston, head of respiratory medicine at the University of British Columbia. But he said, quote, if that many younger people are being hospitalized, that means that there are a lot of young people in the community that are walking around with the infection. Okay. And the other thing that's really important is because you can be infected with COVID-19 and you can be contagious before you actually develop symptoms. And you can be contagious to somebody else who is older and their immune system is compromised. So the new data represents a preliminary look at the first significant wave, the first significant wave of cases in the United States that does not include people who returned to the country from Wuhan, China, or from Japan, the authors reported. Between February 12th and March 16th, 2020, there were 4,226 such cases reported to the CDC, the study states. So the ages the ages were reported for 2,449 of those patients, the CDC said, and of those 6% were 85 years old and older, and 25% were between the ages of 65 and 84. 29% were between the ages of 20 and 44. The age groups of 55 to 64 and 45 to 54 included 18% of the total. Only 5% of cases were diagnosed in people 19 years old and younger. Only 5% of cases were diagnosed in people 19 years old and younger. So the report included no information about whether patients of any age had underlying risk factors, such as chronic illness or a compromised immune system. So it is impossible to determine whether the younger patients who were hospitalized were more susceptible to serious infection than most others in their age group. Okay, but we do know that, especially when we look at African Americans, we do know you have African Americans who are in that age range, 20 to 44 or 20 to 54, especially 20 to 44, that have underlying conditions: obesity, lupus, diabetes, high blood pressure. They can have other conditions as well that make them more susceptible. Sickle cell anemia, okay, that make them more susceptible. Okay, so check out this article here from New York Times. Younger adults make a big portion of coronavirus hospitalization in US. New CDC data shows that nearly 40% of patients sick enough to be hospitalized were aged 20 to 54, but the risk of dying was significantly higher in older people. Okay, that's it. New York Times. We'll put the links to all these articles in the notes of the videos. Okay. All right. So I want to do a recap of what took place on Thursday, March 18th, also dealing with coronavirus. So I want to look at the updates from Washington Post. Okay, so we'll pull that up. The computer's running slowly here. How's everybody doing today? How you all doing with your children being at home? And your children being at home and you possibly home or what have you. This stuff was avoidable. This was going to cause Donald Trump the presidency. Donald Trump is in deep trouble. The one out of 25, 26 candidates, the one candidate he feared the most, the one candidate he risked his presidency, risked impeachment to try to stop, Joe Biden, is who he's going to have to go up against. One. Okay. Two, Donald Trump bragged about the stock market, bragged about the economy. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, as of this week, lost basically all the gains that it made since he's been in office. Okay. It barely got above 20,000 today. Okay. So it's basically wiped out all the gains that is made since he's been in office. So he's in deep, deep trouble and he knows it. And when this information comes out here, when the rest of this information comes out, he's either going to be forced to resign from office or he's going to be, is worthy of impeachment. Now, I don't know if they're going to go through the impeachment process. When this stuff comes out, is worthy of impeachment. He may be forced to resign from office. I don't know. This stuff here is, you're going to have a whole lot of people that voted for him that are going to be calling for him to resign from office. When all this stuff, when this stuff comes out and he ignored the warning signs and he sabotaged the effort to be able to fight against global pandemics. And then when we look at the reporting from foreign policy .com. Let me just pull up this article here from foreignpolicy.com. Trump has sabotaged America's, let's see, what's the name of this article here? It's coming up. Trump has sabotaged America's coronavirus response. Trump has sabotaged America's coronavirus response. As it improvises its way through a public health crisis, the United States has never been less prepared for a pandemic. Okay, that's from January 31st. Okay, check out the broadcast I did on March 18th, because I go deep into it. Okay, I'm trying to make this a shorter broadcast today. I don't want to do 2 hours. It's a very busy day. Let's see here who we have here on YouTube. How's everybody doing? I'm gonna post a link here. Everybody read that. Journal of Jade News. Did you read the stimulus draft? Yeah, I read the stimulus draft. I reported on that yesterday. Actually, if you go watch the broadcast on Wednesday, March 18th, I reported on that yesterday. And then I read it today as well. We're going to get into that. Okay. So while that comes up, let's jump into this dealing with Senator Richard Burr, right? ProPublica and NPR, National Public Radio, has some really good articles dealing with this. We look at the reporting from ProPublica as well as thehill.com. Thehill.com. Senator dumped up to $1.7 million of stock after reassuring public about coronavirus preparedness. Senator dumped up to $1.7 million of stock after reassuring public about coronavirus preparedness. This is about Senator Richard Burr, Republican from North Carolina. Okay. And you're going to hear a lot about this. This is going to be a huge scandal. Intelligence Chair Senator Richard Burr's sell-off came around the time he was receiving daily briefings on the health threat. This is from March 19th, 2020. This is ProPublica.com. And then we look at the article from thehill.com, because the Hill picked up the article from ProPublica. And I think they talk about the article from NPR, National Public Radio. Well, actually, the one from ProPublica talks about the article from National Public Radio as well. The one from thehill.com is Burr, B-U-R-R, sold off significant amount of stock a week before market crash started. Burr sold off significant amount of stock a week before market crash started. So soon after, he offered public assurance that the government was ready to battle the coronavirus. The powerful chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Richard Burr, Republican senator from North Carolina, sold off a significant percentage of his stocks, unloading between $628,000 to $1.72 million of his holdings on February 13th in 33 separate transactions. February 13th, 33 separate transactions. As the head of the U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee, Senator Richard Burr has access to the government's most highly classified information about threats to America's security. His committee was receiving daily coronavirus briefings around this time, according to Reuters, according to a story from Reuters. February 13th. Now, I was studying coronavirus February 13th. And I was reviewing some of my articles February today dealing with coronavirus. So while a lot of people were talking about Oprah and Gail and Snoop and Jada, all this stuff back and forth, all this stuff going back and forth, I was studying coronavirus. And I was reading about it in China. And then the first case in the US was reported on January 20th, 2020. Okay. And I'm looking at this thing growing, and I'm looking, and I know about the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918. And I'm looking and I'm saying this thing right here, this is going to be huge. This is what we should focus on. So I did my first broadcast dealing with that on my Sunday night show, March 1st, 2020, dealing with coronavirus. So everybody follow us on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. Turn on notifications so you know when we go live. Follow us on our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep. Turn on notifications so you know when I go live. Okay? Because this type of information I deal with, a lot of other people don't deal with. We focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior. We do this to empower you, not for clicks and likes. So Senator Richard Burr's committee was receiving daily coronavirus briefings according to around this time, according to reporting from Reuters. A week after Senator Richard Burr's sales, 33 transactions, sales, the stock market began a sharp decline and has lost about 30% since. A week after, so he made 33 transactions on February 13th. A week after the sales he made, the stock market began a sharp decline and has lost about 30% since. On Thursday, March 19th, 2020, Senator Richard Burr came under fire after National Public Radio obtained a secret recording from February 27th, in which the lawmaker gave a VIP group at an exclusive social club a much more dire preview of the economic impact of the coronavirus than what he had told the public. There were warning signs. If you've been watching my videos, I told you there were warning signs along the way that were ignored. Okay, this is probably going to end up costing probably somewhere around $1.5, probably $2 trillion, because the healthcare professionals are they're telling Congress they need $100 billion to buy equipment, to buy face masks, to buy gloves, to buy all types of equipment that they don't have, and they're on the front line and they have to be protected, because there are reports of nurses having to be quarantined and things like this. And if the doctors and nurses get infected, then you're lacking staff to help the sick people who actually need who actually need help. Okay, this is a huge disaster. This did not have to happen. This is what happens when you have a president who is clueless, who is inept, does not understand how to run the government, who has declared war on scientists for 3 years, okay, who shut down the Predict pandemic team in October 2019, okay? This is what happens when you have somebody like this. When you look at, for instance, we look at the article from businessinsider.com. If you haven't seen my previous broadcast, because I go deep into this. Trump spent the past 2 years slashing the government agencies responsible for handling the coronavirus breakout. This is from February 25th, 2020, businessinsider.com. Trump spent the past 2 years slashing the government agencies responsible for handling the coronavirus breakout. The Trump administration has also spent the past several years dismantling the very government programs responsible for combating a global health crisis. The Trump administration shut down the entire global health security unit of the National Security Council. That was in May 2018. John Bolton did that. In 2018, for instance, the Center for Disease Control cut 80% of its efforts to prevent global disease outbreaks because it was running out of money. Their funding, ultimately, the department went from working in 49 countries to just 10 countries. Eliminating the the Trump administration eliminated the U.S. government's $30 million complex crisis fund. The Trump administration reduced national health dollars. You can go on down the line and look at what happened. And then when we look at this article, this is from 2 years ago. This is from Washington Post. So you have to connect the dots and look at this, because I've been going back and putting all this together. May 10th, 2018, Washington Post had an article, top White House official in charge of pandemic response exits abruptly. Top White House official in charge of pandemic response exits abruptly. The top White House official responsible for leading the U.S. response in the event of a deadly pandemic has left the administration, and the global health security team he oversaw has been disbanded under a reorganization by National Security Council advisor John Bolton. This is the same John Bolton that's coming out with a $30 book he wants everybody to buy, who refused to testify in a House impeachment inquiry. Okay, he refused to testify there. He said, if you subpoena me to testify, I'm going to sue you. This is that John Bolton. The abrupt departure of Rear Admiral Timothy Ziemer, Z-I-E-M-E-R, from the National Security Council means no senior administration official is focused solely on global health security. No senior administration official is now focused solely on global health security. Rear Admiral Timothy Ziemer's departure, along with the breakup of his team, comes at a time when many experts say the country is already unprepared for the increasing risks of a pandemic or bioterrorism attack. This was May 10th, 2018. This article was written. Before Timothy Ziemer was fired, experts were saying that the U.S. was already unprepared for the increasing risks of a pandemic or bioterrorism attack. Timothy Ziemer's last day was the same day a new Ebola outbreak was declared in the Congo. He is not being replaced. Pandemic preparedness and global health security are issues that require government-wide responses, experts say, as well as the leadership of a high-ranking official within the White House who is assigned only to this role. So why did John Bolton needs to be subpoenaed. Why did John Bolton fire him? Why did John Bolton fire Rear Admiral Timothy Ziemer? Then John Bolton, when you read the article from foreignpolicy.com, John Bolton fired also Tom Bossert, who was the Homeland Security Director of Homeland Security. Tom Bossert wrote an article March 10th, 2020 for the Washington Post. And he said that we're just 10 days away from the hospitals being overrun with people who are infected with the coronavirus and need hospitalization. They'll need ventilators. There's a shortage of ventilators because France, Italy, other countries have been buying up the ventilators. So now, earlier this week, Trump was on a conference call with the governors, and he's basically telling them, you're on your own to find the ventilators. They're trying to get help. Okay. Now, on Wednesday, what he did was he started to implement the Defense Production Act. Okay. Calling himself a wartime president, Trump said, now, how are you going to get 5 deferments because you're too much of a coward to go fight in Vietnam, but you want to call yourself a wartime president? Okay, check that out. He got, what happened? Does he still have bone spurs? He got 5 deferments because he was too much of a coward to go fight in Vietnam, but he wants to call himself a wartime president. Calling himself a wartime president. The joke is that he calls himself a president, but okay, whatever. Trump said he would sign the Defense Production Act, quote, in case we need it, end quote, as the government bolsters resources for an expected surge in cases of the virus. The the cases are already surging. We're over 14,000 as of March 19th. We're over 14,000 cases. You look at the Johns Hopkins University track. So I have the map up right now from Johns Hopkins University. We're over 14,000 cases and over 200 deaths. Trump is playing games with this. Read this article from PBS.org, Public Broadcasting System. This is PBS NewsHour. Trump invokes emergency authority. Big three automakers closing. This deals with the Defense Production Act. Okay, so let's go back to this here. I'm just trying to give you a little background information. What's everybody doing on Facebook and YouTube? Everybody share this broadcast, okay? Because you ain't gonna find this type of information a lot of other places. All right. So Washington Post, May 10th, 2018, top White House official in charge of pandemic response exits abruptly. Okay, read that article. And then, because I have a bunch of them here. Then you have businessinsider.com as well. Trump defends huge cuts to CDC's budget, saying the government can hire more doctors when we need them during crisis. Trump defends huge. This is from February 27, 2020. Read this article here. I don't have time to get deep into it. This at a press conference, February 27, Donald Trump, he said it was easy to bolster the public health agency and cited his business approach toward running the federal government. Trump defended his huge budget cuts to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Donald Trump said, quote, "I'm a business person. I don't like having thousands of people around when you don't need them. When we need them, we can get them back very quickly." He's talking about the scientists. He's talking about the experts. Donald Trump said some of these experts targeted by the cuts, quote, "had not been used for many years," end quote, and that additional federal money and new medical staffers could be obtained swiftly since we know all the good people. Okay. So let's go back to Senator Richard Burr. So on Thursday, March 19th, Senator Richard Burr came under fire after NPR, National Public Radio, obtained a secret recording from February 27th, 2020, in which the lawmaker gave a VIP group at an exclusive social club a much more dire preview of the economic impact of the coronavirus than what he told the public. Okay. He's basically giving them a warning. All right. So I've got the article here from NPR, because I read that also. NPR.org. This is from March 19th, 2020. Intelligence chairman raised virus alarms weeks ago. Secret recording shows. Now, on the Rachel Maddow show, she played the secret recording. Okay. I think that was Wednesday, March 18th. Intelligence chairman raised virus alarms weeks ago. Secret recording shows. Quote, Senator Burr filed a financial disclosure form for personal transactions made several weeks before the U.S. and financial markets showed signs of volatility due to the growing coronavirus outbreak, end quote, his spokesperson said. As the situation continues to evolve daily, he has been deeply concerned by the steep and sudden toll this pandemic is taking on our economy. So that was a spokesperson for Senator Richard Burr explaining why he sell up to $1.7 million in stock a week before the stock market started tanking. He did 33 transactions on February 13th. Now, Senator Richard Burr is not a particularly wealthy member of the U.S. Senate. Roll call estimated his net worth at $1.7 million in 2018, indicating that the February sales, the 33 that took place February 13th, indicating that the February sales significantly shaped his financial fortunes and spared him from some of the pain that many Americans are now facing. It's interesting. He made 33 transactions in one day, a week before the stock market started tanking. Now, Senator Richard Burr was one of the authors of the Pandemic and All Hazards Preparedness Act, the Pandemic and All Hazards Preparedness Act, which shapes the nation's response to public health threats like the coronavirus. Senator Richard Burr's office did not respond to requests for comment about what sort of briefing materials, if any, on the coronavirus threat Senator Richard Burr may have seen as a chair of the U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee before the selling spree. Now, according to the report from National Public Radio from NPR.org, Senator Richard Burr told attendees of the luncheon held at the Capitol Hill Club, quote, "There's one thing that I can tell you about this. It is much more aggressive in its transmission than anything that we have seen in recent history. It is probably more akin to the 1918 pandemic. The 1918 flu pandemic killed 50 million people worldwide. 500 million people got the Spanish flu, the 1918 flu pandemic, which hit in 3 waves. I did a broadcast about this a couple of days ago. How many of y'all saw that? Go watch that. This deals with history that ties in today. Senator Richard Burr, the Senate chair of the U.S. Intelligence Committee, told an exclusive group that, now see, he didn't say this to the public. He said this to an exclusive group. He said, quote, "There's one thing that I can tell you about this. It is much more aggressive in its transmission than anything that we have seen in recent history. It's probably more akin to the 1918 pandemic. 675,000 people in the U.S. died from the Spanish flu. And this was at a time before there was a flu vaccine. Well, there's no vaccine for COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2. Senator Richard Burr warned that companies might have to curtail their employees' travel, that schools could close, and that the military might be mobilized to compensate for overwhelmed hospitals. Because this is basically all things that happened in 1918 here in the U.S. If you go back in the broadcast I did, schools closed, church services were canceled, businesses shut down, parades were canceled. Now, Philadelphia, they went on with their parade, and that helped spread it. This was during World War I, and then it continued into 1919. It hit in 3 spurts. It hit in 3 waves. And the second wave was more deadly than the first wave because the virus mutated. So the second wave was more deadlier than the first wave. You had people wearing masks, like in San Francisco. They were wearing surgical masks to protect themselves. You had people practicing social distancing. This was in 1918. The luncheon was organized by the Tar Heel Circle, a club for business and organizations in North Carolina that are charged up to $10,000 for membership and are promised, quote, interaction with top leaders and staff from Congress, the administration, and the private sector, end quote. They're promised interaction with top leaders and staff from Congress, the administration, and the private sector. Now, Senator Richard Burr, so that audio, that meeting took place February 27th, 2020. That's before all hell really broke loose with this. And things really started escalating. We're starting to see things increase. We're starting to see things increase February 27th, 28th. But just remember, now that was February 27th. Remember, February 28th, 2020, what did Donald Trump say at a rally about coronavirus? Did he say it was a pandemic? No, he said it was a Democratic hoax. February 28th. Don't take my word for this. Okay. I've got all the evidence. I've had thousands of articles. Okay. So we look at the article from NBCnews.com. I've got it right here. I'll give you the actual name of it because I want you to go research this. See, proper documentation ends all conversation. You don't have to believe a word that I say. I can document what I'm saying. I give you the sources. You go research this yourself. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to believe a word I say. Proper documentation ends all conversation. February 28th, 2020, Trump calls coronavirus Democrats' new hoax, NBC News. Go read this. The video's in here. Let's see if we can play it. Now, I warned y'all about Trump in 2016 before the election. I was doing nationally syndicated radio 5 days a week. People didn't want to listen to me. They said, no, we're going to do economic empowerment and invest in the stock market. Have you seen the stock market lately? They said, no, we don't need to vote. We're going to do economic empowerment and invest in the stock market. We're going to build businesses. A lot of your businesses are shut down now because of government. I told you, government and politics intersect. Government is not separated from, business is not separated from politics. Business and government and politics intersect. They're not separate. Politics, government creates the business environment, creates the economy that businesses operate in. Now, a lot of those businesses are shut down. A lot of those businesses are losing money. They're going to go out of business. All this stuff was avoidable. All this stuff it was avoidable if you had somebody competent in the White House, but you don't. You have somebody who's been declaring war on scientists for 3 years. You have somebody who said climate change was a hoax. The people who told you it don't matter who you vote for president, they're a goddamn lie. They are a lie. They lied to you. Yeah, I said it. They lied to you. So let's look at this right here. Let's see if we can play this here. Yeah, I said it. They lied to you. Let's see if we can get this going. So Donald Trump accused Democrats of politicizing.
It was me.
Let's see
that
here.
I was the reason all these diets never worked. This is
okay. It's playing an ad. Donald Trump accused Democrats of politicizing the deadly coronavirus during a campaign rally here on Friday, claiming that the outbreak is, quote, their new hoax, end quote, as he continued to downplay the risk in the US. Let's go to Mr. Trump here.
Now the Democrats are politicizing the coronavirus. You know that, right? Coronavirus. They're politicizing it. We did one of the great jobs. You say, how's President Trump doing? They go, oh, not good, not good. They have no clue. They don't have any clue. They can't even count their votes in Iowa. They can't even count them. No, they can't. They can't count their votes. One of my people came up to me and said, Mr. President, they tried to beat you on Russia. That didn't work out too well. They couldn't do it. They tried the impeachment hoax. That was on a perfect conversation. They tried anything. They tried it over and over. They've been doing it since you got in. It's all turning. They lost. It's all turning. Think of it. Think of it. And this is their new hoax. But, you know, we did something that's been pretty amazing. We're 15 people in this massive country. And because of the fact that we went early, we could have had a lot more than that. We're doing great. Our country is doing so great. We are so unified. A number that nobody heard of, that I heard of recently, and I was shocked to hear it. 35,000 people on average die each year from the flu. Did anyone know that? 35,000. That's a lot of people. It could go to 100,000. It could be 27,000. They say usually a minimum of 27 goes up to 100,000 people a year die. And so far, we have lost nobody to coronavirus in the United States. Nobody. And it doesn't mean we won't. And we are totally prepared. It doesn't mean we won't. But think of it. You hear 35 and 40,000 people, and we've lost nobody. And you wonder if the press is in hysteria mode.
So that was February 28th, 2020. 2 weeks later, he declares a national emergency. You have over 200 deaths in the US as of right now. You have over 14,000 reported cases. Remember when you had 15 cases and he said pretty soon it'll be zero? Oh, you may have a zero in the number, but it ain't going to be zero. All of this was avoidable. So if we look at, I'm going to give you the article again. Go research this. You don't have to believe me. I can document and prove what I'm talking about. That's from NBC News. It's got thousands of articles. See, you notice I don't do all this entertainment bullshit. I don't do none of that stuff. I ain't got time for that. The type of research I do, I don't have time for none of that stuff. Trump calls coronavirus Democrats' new hoax. Go read that article, February 28th, 2020. Okay? The day before that right there. Now, when you go watch this, he didn't call coronavirus a pandemic. Because earlier this week, he said he always knew it was a pandemic. No, you didn't. He didn't call it a pandemic. He said it was the Democrats' new hoax. They were repeating what he was saying on Fox News. Then after he declared national emergency on Fox News, now on Fox News, they're talking about how serious this is. You were saying it was a hoax on Fox News. Sean Hannity, a lot of other ones on Fox News, they were saying it was a hoax. Then Trump declares a national emergency. Now all of a sudden, they're serious over at Fox News. Oh, this is serious. The chickens are coming home to roost. The day before this right here that Trump did this rally, that rally was in South Carolina. Senator Richard Burr was at the exclusive, he was at the luncheon organized by the Tar Heel Club, February 27, 2020. And he told the people there, there's one thing that I can tell you about this. It is much more aggressive in its transmission than anything that we have seen in recent history. It is probably more akin to the 1918 pandemic. Now, I think Trump probably at this point knew what was coming. I don't think Senator Richard Burr would tell them at the Tar Heel Club, organized by the Tar Heel Club, the luncheon organized by the Tar Heel Club. I don't think he would tell them and not tell Trump. Senator Richard Burr warned that companies might have to curtail their employees' travel, that schools could close, and that the military might be mobilized to compensate for overwhelmed hospitals. So Senator Richard Burr's public comments had been considerably less dire. In a February 7th, 2020 op-ed article that he co-authored with another senator, he assured the public that, quote, the United States today is better prepared than ever before to face emerging public health threats like the coronavirus, end quote, he wrote. No, it wasn't. You go back to May 10th, 2018. No, the experts were saying that the US wasn't prepared. You go back to January 31st, 2020, foreignpolicy.com. Trump has sabotaged America's coronavirus response. This is the month before. This is about 8 days before he wrote this op-ed February 7th. Laurie Garrett, wrote this article for Foreign Policy. As it improvises its way through a public health crisis, the United States has never been less prepared for a pandemic. Wait a second. 8 days before he wrote this, she's saying the U.S. has never been less prepared for a pandemic. He's writing an op-ed article saying the United States today is better prepared than ever before to face an emerging public health threat. Somebody's lying. Somebody's lying. Senator Richard Burr wrote, quote, "No matter the outbreak or threat, Congress and the federal government have been vigilant in identifying gaps in its readiness, efforts, and improving its response capabilities," end quote. So why is there a lack of ventilators? Why is there a lack of hospital beds? Why hasn't Donald Trump ordered the Army Corps of Engineers to start building temporary hospitals? Because Governor Andrew Cuomo has been begging for that, because they're looking at the rise in the cases. They're looking at the curve. They're looking at the rise in the cases, so they know the rise in the cases predicts approximately how many hospital beds they would need. They only have about 3,500 ICU units in the state of New York. So if you are saying this February 7th, then why haven't the actions taken? Why haven't the actions been taken to follow what you're saying? He went on to say, no matter the outbreak or threat, Congress and the federal government have been vigilant in identifying gaps in its readiness efforts and improving its response capabilities. Now, the article goes on to say, reporting from ProPublica.org, name of this article once again, I'm going to give you the name of the article. I'm going to give you the link in just a minute here. Senator dumped up to $1.7 million of stock after reassuring public about coronavirus preparedness. Somebody's lying. Senator Richard Burr was somebody's allegedly lying. Let's put it like that. Senator Richard Burr was one of just 3 senators who in 2012 opposed the bill that explicitly barred lawmakers and their staff from using non-public information. You mean like Senate intelligence briefings? From using non-public information for stock trades, and required regular disclosure of those trades. In opposing the bill, Senator Richard Burr, Republican from North Carolina, who should be voted out of office next election, by the way, whenever he's up for re-election, he should be voted out of office. He argued at the time that insider trading laws already applied to members of Congress. President Barack Obama signed the bill known as the Stock Act that year, S-T-O-C-K, the Stock Act. Now, stock transactions of lawmakers are reported in ranges. Senator Richard Burr's February 13th selling spree was his largest stock selling day of at least the past 14 months, according to ProPublica, according to the ProPublica's review of Senate records. Unlike his typical disclosure reports, which are a mix of sales and purchases, all of the transactions were sales. February 13th, he did 33 sales. He did 33 transactions, all of them were sales. His biggest sales included companies that are among the most vulnerable to an economic slowdown. He dumped up to $150,000 worth of shares of Wyndham Hotels and Resorts, a chain based in the United States that has lost 2/3 of its value. And he sold up to $100,000 worth of shares of Extended Stay America, an economy hospitality chain. That's a hotel. Extended stay, what do they do? Extended stays. It's like a hotel, but a lot of times people stay there. They want to stay like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Extended stay, and I think with them, they don't have. They probably don't have. Usually with extended stays, they may not even have house cleaning a lot of times that lower the cost. So he dumped shares, $150,000 worth of shares in Wyndham Hotels and Resorts, and as a hotel chain. And he dumped $100,000 worth of shares in Extended Stay America, an economy hospitality chain. And who is trying to get a multi-billion-dollar buyout? A lot of hotels. You got hotel chains trying to get the hotel industry actually trying to get a multi-billion-dollar buyout. Shares of that company are now worth less than half of what they were worth at the time Senator Richard Burr sold them. The assets come from accounts that are held by Senator Richard Burr the assets come from accounts that are held by Senator Richard Burr, belong to his spouse, or are jointly held. So read this article from ProPublica. Senator dumped up to $1.7 million of stock after reassuring public about coronavirus preparedness. It sounds like someone is not being truthful. Then we look at thehill.com, March 19th, 2020. Burr sold off significant amount of stock a week before market crash started. Okay, read that article as well. They talk about it also. On February 7th, Senator Richard Burr penned a Fox News op-ed in which he said the, quote, public health preparedness and response framework that Congress has put in place and that the Trump administration is actively implementing today is helping to protect Americans. In a statement to thehill.com earlier on Thursday, March 19th, an official for Senator Richard Burr remarked that he has been committed to the health and safety of Americans for over 2 decades. The spokesperson also defended the lawmaker, saying that he has been warning constituents about the threats of the disease since February. When in February? Did he? Well, we got the recording of what he said at the Tar Heel Club luncheon. When did he go tell constituents that didn't pay up to $10,000 to be part of that luncheon, part of the club? I'm just curious. So that's thehill.com. Then NPR.org, National Public Radio, the big story from National Public Radio. Intelligence chairman raised virus alarms weeks ago. Secret recording shows. March 19, 2020. Membership to join the Tar Heel Circle costs between $500 and $10,000 and promises the members, quote, to enjoy interaction with top leaders and staff from Congress, the administration, and the private sector, end quote, according to the group's website. In attendance, according to a copy of the RSVP list obtained by National Public Radio, were dozens of invited guests representing companies and organizations from North Carolina. And according to federal records, those companies or their political committees donated more than $100,000 to Senator Richard Burr's election campaign in 2015 and 2016. Okay, so if he was reelected in 2016 election, he's not up for reelection to 2022. Okay, if he doesn't resign before then, or if he's not indicted, to tell you the truth. So, okay, Senator Richard Burr announced previously he was not planning to run for re-election in 2020. Good. He can just go ahead and resign. He can just go ahead and resign, retire, and then they'll indict him after he retires. The message Senator Richard Burr delivered to the group was dire. Now, 13 days before the State Department began to warn against travel to Europe, and 15 days before the Trump administration banned European travelers, Senator Richard Burr warned those in the room to reconsider. Quote, every company should be cognizant of the fact that you may have to alter your travel. You may have to look at your employees and judge whether the trip they're making to Europe is essential or whether it can be done on video conference. Why risk it, he said. That was February 27th. 16 days before North Carolina closed its schools over the threat of the coronavirus, Senator Richard Burr warned it could happen. Quote, there will be, I'm sure, times that communities, probably some in North Carolina, have a transmission rate where they say, let's close schools for 2 weeks. Everybody stay home, he said. All this stuff didn't have to happen. The signs were there and people were ignoring the signs. The battery in the smoke detector was chirping and people were ignoring the battery chirping. Now people are trying to replace the battery in the smoke detector after the house burns down. And Senator Richard Burr invoked the possibility that the military might be mobilized to combat the coronavirus. Only now, 3 weeks later, is the public learning of that prospect. Quote, he said, quote, we're going to send a military hospital there. It's going to be intense and going to be set up on the ground somewhere, Senator Richard Burr said at the luncheon. I wonder what they served at that luncheon. $10,000. What did that mean? Must have had, did they have gold in it? I wonder what they served in it at that luncheon. It's going to be a decision the president and the DOD, Department of Defense, make. And we're going to have medical professionals supplemented by local staff to treat the people that need treatment, end quote. Now, Senator Richard Burr has a unique perspective on the government's response to a pandemic, and not just because of his role as Intelligence Committee chairman, but because he helped write the Pandemic and All Hazards Preparedness Act, which forms the framework for the federal response. But in his public comments about the threat of COVID-19, Senator Richard Burr never offered the kind of precise warning that he delivered to the small group of his constituents that paid $500 to $10,000 to be there at the luncheon. Okay, so read the rest of this article here. I don't have time to get through all of it. This is from NPR.org. This is the type of research I do. Intelligence chairman raised virus alarms weeks ago. Secret recording shows. It's from March 19th, 2020. Axios.com was this March 14th, March 13th. Congressional doctor expects 70 million to 150 million US coronavirus cases. Congress in-house doctor is Dr. Brian Monahan, Dr. Brian Monahan, Congress in-house doctor told Capitol Hill staffers at a closed door meeting that he expects 70 to 150 million people in the US, roughly a third of the country, to contract the coronavirus. Two sources briefed on the meeting told Axios, AXIOS. The estimate, which is in line with other projections from health experts, underscores the potential seriousness of this outbreak, even as the White House has been downplaying its severity in an attempt to keep public panic at bay. Okay, this was right around, I think this may have been March 13th. I think this was probably right before Trump declared a national emergency, after he said just 2 weeks before it was a Democratic hoax. All right. So everybody share this broadcast. If you like this type of information, also you can donate to the African History Network. $ the AHN Show through Cash App. $ the AHN Show through Cash App, or paypal.me /the AHN Show. Paypal.me /the AHN Show. And also at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Okay, click on the yellow donate button. So if you want to donate 5, 10, 15, 25, 100, whatever it is. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, finance our Sunday night show, the African History Network show, Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9, 10 a.m. to Superstation WFDF. So we broadcast on Facebook and on YouTube live Sunday nights. Also, I'm in the radio station studio. So this helps finance the research, pay the bills, etc. African-American business owners, post name your business here on the thread of the broadcast. Email us at customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com will let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. So we have some new advertisers as well. A lot of people want to get into shape, and more people are at home right now because of the coronavirus scare that was avoidable. But Trump administration dropped the ball for whatever reason. This is what happens when you got somebody incompetent as president. Elections have consequences. We can't make that mistake again. But SheRanHerselfFit.com can help you with that. SheRanHerselfFit.com can help you get in shape. Their mission is to inspire and motivate women to make healthy lifestyle changes. Now, the founder of She Ran Herself Fit, her name is Felicia. Felicia lost over 200 pounds by changing her diet and running. Now, running may not be your motivation, but find what drives you to be fit. SheRanHerselfFit.com is a brand that promotes women living a healthy lifestyle. By making small sacrifices in your daily routine and changing your diet, you can combat many of the different diseases that are prevalent in the African-American community. Visit their website, SheRanHerselfFit.com, SheRanHerselfFit.com. Now, a lot of people want to get their financial house in order with this catastrophe taking place, but a lot of people realize, well, hey, you know what? We need to have savings. We need to have, we need to deal with wealth management, etc. Maybe invest in gold. We may not want to invest in some stocks right now. Maybe some stocks, companies that make condoms, that'd probably be a good investment. Companies that make surgical masks, companies that make ventilators. These are not stock tips, but I'm just saying, those would probably be good investments right now. Certified financial planner Martisha Patterson has over 20 years of wealth management experience and working in the industry. And if you are looking to improve your financial situation, you want to create wealth, you're looking for proven strategies to meet your financial goals, Certified financial planner Martisha Patterson can help you with this. Give her a call for a free consultation. Area code 646-552-4384, 646-552-4384. Also visit her website, PattersonPlans17.com, PattersonPlans17.com. Let her know you found out about this from the African History Network. Okay. And then also, African-American firefighters have a deep, rich history. The book Black Heroes of Fire by author DeKalb Walcott Jr. tells the story of Engine Number 21. Engine Number 21 was the first organized paid African-American firefighting company in the city of Chicago. Find out about their exploits and their heroism in the book Black Heroes of Fire, the history of the first African-American fire company in Chicago. It's available at Amazon.com and the website BlackHeroesOfFire.com, BlackHeroesOfFire.com by author DeKalb Walcott Jr. Okay, now we have another Republican senator who appears to be in some hot water also. And this is Senator Kelly Loeffler, Republican from Georgia. RawStory.com has the reporting from March 19th, 2020. Busted. Second GOP senator caught dumping stock after receiving coronavirus briefing. Busted. Second GOP senator caught dumping stock after receiving coronavirus briefing. Two Republican senators have admitted in public filings to having sold stock just before the crash of the stock market. The first senator, Richard Burr, Republican, North Carolina. Then hours later, the Daily Beast reported interim Senator Kelly Loeffler, Republican from Georgia. Quote, the Senate's newest member sold off 7 figures worth of stock holdings in the days and weeks after a private all senators meeting on the novel coronavirus that subsequently hammered U.S. equities, the Daily Beast reported. Senator Kelly Loeffler reported the first sale of stock jointly owned by her and her husband on January 24th, 2020. The very day that her committee, the Senate Health Committee, hosted a private all senators briefing from administration officials, including the Center for Disease Control Director, Dr. Anthony Fauci, the head of the National Institutes of Health of the United States on the coronavirus. Okay, the Daily Beast reported. Now, Kelly Loeffler tweeted about it at the time on January 24th, 2020. She said, appreciate today's briefing from the president's top health officials on the novel coronavirus outbreak. These men and women are working around the clock to keep our country safe and healthy. Now, between January 24th and February 14th, 2020, by contrast, Senator Kelly Loeffler, Republican from Georgia, reported selling stock jointly owned with her husband worth between $1,275,000 and $3.1 million between January 24th and February 14th. That's about a 3-week period of time. Senator Kelly Loeffler reported selling stock jointly owned with her husband worth between 1.2 million and 3.1 million, according to transaction reports filed with Senate ethics officials, the Daily Beast reported. The 15 stocks that Senator Kelly Loeffler reported selling have lost more than a third of their value on average since she reported offloading them. So check this out from rawstory.com, and then check out the original article from the Daily Beast. It's very interesting. Now you're gonna find a whole lot. I'm telling you, this is gonna be worse than impeachment hearing. When all the evidence come out, all this stuff come out, it's gonna be a whole lot of people being resigning from office. There's gonna be people indicted. This is going to cost Donald Trump the presidency. Busted. Second GOP senator caught dumping stock after receiving coronavirus briefing. Okay, that's from rawstory.com. So check that out. All right, let me get to because I don't want to be here too long. Let's do a quick recap of what happened March 19th, 2020. So California Governor Gavin Newsom issued who's a Democrat, issued a statewide stay-at-home orders starting Thursday evening, March 19th, 2020 in the state of California. California knows how to party, but you can't do it with 10 or more people. Quote, this is a moment we need to make tough decisions, Governor Gavin Newsom said at an online news conference. It is the strongest statewide restriction yet aimed at stemming the spread of the coronavirus, which was avoidable, but people in the Trump administration dropped the ball, but they sold stock, but they dropped the ball. The announcement follows similar orders issued in the past few days across the San Francisco Bay Area and Los Angeles as the novel coronavirus continued to spread globally. So it's over 200,000 cases worldwide. Actually, I think it's over 225,000 cases worldwide. Okay. And everybody share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Over 240,000 cases worldwide. Over 240,000 cases worldwide. Over 14,000 cases in the U.S. Now, worldwide, there have been at least there have been a little over 86,000 people who have totally recovered also. So that's important to note. Okay, there have been at least 86,000 people worldwide who have recovered from it as well. Okay. Let me give you the link here. This is to the tracking by Johns Hopkins University. they have some of the most accurate tracking, because I look at numerous sources for this: Washington Post, New York Times, NBC News, CDC, Center for Disease Control. Okay, so I mean, this is what I do. Be sure to listen to our Sunday night show. Sundays 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We broadcast on our Facebook fan page and YouTube also. Okay, so as the figures surpassed 5,700 on Tuesday, so as the novel coronavirus continued to spread globally, the number of confirmed cases in the United States doubled. A figure that surpassed 5,700 this past Tuesday, which would have been the 16th, March 16th. It surpassed 5,700 on Tuesday, March 16th. It surpassed over 14,000 by Thursday night, March 19th. Or Tuesday was the 17th. The dramatic increase stems in part from more testing, but also indicates just how much the virus has spread. So a lot of people already had it, but because more tests are available, they're being tested. So the number, and I said this before, you watched my broadcast, I said, as more tests are made available, you're going to see the number skyrocket of the people who were diagnosed with this. The dramatic increase stems in part from more testing, but also indicates just how much the virus has spread. Officials say the number will continue to rise sharply as more test results become available. Now, Senate Republicans introduced a $1 trillion fiscal package, the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, which includes sending direct cash payments to many Americans. We'll talk about that in just a minute. The State Department warned Americans not to travel internationally and advised all Americans who are abroad to return to the United States or make preparations to shelter in place. Italy on Thursday hit a grim milestone, surpassing China for the largest number of coronavirus related deaths at 3,405. Morgues in Italy are running out of capacity. To address medical supply shortages, new legislation provides manufacturers of N95 face masks protection against lawsuits when selling certain masks to healthcare workers. That will free producers, including 3M and Honeywell, to sell tens of millions more masks per month to hospitals, according to Vice President Mike Pence, who said, quote, they are available now. Now, the healthcare professionals are asking, where are they? Because we're trying to get them, we can't get them. And then the healthcare professionals are petitioning Congress for $100 billion to buy the equipment that they need and the safety gear that they need. Now, CDC data now shows that younger adults are a larger percentage of coronavirus hospitalization in the United States. We talked about that at the top of the broadcast. India barred incoming commercial flights for a week, and Australia and New Zealand closed their borders to everyone except citizens and residents. The United Arab Emirates went further, stopping expatriate residents from returning to the country. Meanwhile, Italy is extending lockdown measures. Donald Trump canceled the in-person G7 summit scheduled for June 2020 at Camp David due to the coronavirus pandemic, deciding instead to hold the annual meeting by video conference. Okay, so we've got the reporting here on Senator Richard Burr. Washington Post is reporting on that. Then also more celebrities are diagnosed with it, more athletes. Two members of the Los Angeles Lakers and Boston Celtics Marcus Smart are NBA's latest to test positive for the coronavirus. Now, a lot of people are asking the question, well, how is it that doctors who have patients who have symptoms can't get the tests? There's not enough tests for them, but celebrities and athletes can get the test. 4 NBA teams, including the Los Angeles Lakers and the Boston Celtics, announced Thursday, March 19th, that members of their organizations have tested positive for the novel coronavirus, bringing the league's tally to at least 14 positive tests. The Los Angeles Lakers, who announced plans to test their players earlier this week after 4 Brooklyn Nets players, including Kevin Durant, tested positive, had 2 unidentified players test positive despite being asymptomatic, which means they didn't have symptoms, but they were tested anyway, and they have it. The Lakers and Nets played each other in Los Angeles on March 10th, one night before NBA Commissioner Adam Silver suspended the 2019-2020 season following Utah Jazz center Rudy Gobert's positive coronavirus test. And then we also know his teammate Donovan Mitchell tested positive as well. We have a member of the Detroit Pistons, Christian Wood, who tested positive also because they played, the Pistons played the Utah Jazz, I think it was like the week before. The Celtics announced that 1 player had tested positive and that he was asymptomatic. Marcus Smart said in a video posted to Twitter shortly thereafter that he had tested positive. He said, "I was tested 5 days ago, and the results came back tonight, which were positive." He's 26 years old. He's a guard for the Boston Celtics. He said, I've been self-quarantined since the test. Thank goodness. COVID-19 must be taken with the highest of seriousness. I know it is a #1 priority for our nation's health experts, and we must get more testing ASAP. Okay, now Bank of America is going to offer deferred payments on mortgages. Bank of America, one of the nation's top lenders, will offer homeowners emergency relief on mortgages amid the economic uncertainty of the coronavirus pandemic. Senate Democrats propose a bailout for student loan borrowers. Now, there's a $1 trillion stimulus package proposed by Republicans. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But Senate Democrats propose a bailout for student loan borrowers as the White House and Congress assemble a stimulus package to blunt the economic impact of the coronavirus pandemic. Senate Democrats are pushing for widespread relief for the 42 million Americans with a total of $1.5 trillion in federal student loans. The coronavirus outbreak brought with it crushing economic uncertainty. The coronavirus outbreak brought with it crushing economic uncertainty, and students and borrowers need targeted, quick relief from payment burdens, said Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat of New York, who introduced the plan Thursday with Senators Patty Murray, a Democrat from Washington, and Senator Elizabeth Warren, Democrat from Massachusetts, and Senator Sherrod Brown, Democrat from Ohio. The Democrats are calling for at least $10,000 in tax-free debt cancellation for all federal student loan borrowers. They're calling for at least $10,000 in tax-free debt cancellation for all federal student loan borrowers. They want the Department of Education, to assume loan payments for the duration of the national emergency, and then institute a 3-month grace period during which borrowers can forego their payments without penalty. Payments made by the department would still count toward loan forgiveness for borrowers in public service jobs. The plan would temporarily halt wage garnishment, tax refund seizure, and reductions in Social Security benefits to repay past due student debt. It would also codify into law President Trump's order last week to waive interest on federal education loans. Now, Senator Elizabeth Warren first floated the idea of loan forgiveness as an economic stimulus amid the health crisis last week. Congressional aides say Senator Elizabeth Warren has since been negotiating with colleagues to hammer out the details and get the measure included in the Senate Democrats' $750 billion stimulus package. So check that out at Washington Post, live updates from the Washington Post. We'll post the link here for you. Now, as a week or so ago, maybe 2 weeks, from 10 days, something like that ago, I talked about the threat of coronavirus spreading throughout prisons among those who are incarcerated. Coalition of criminal justice and public policy groups launched initiative tackling coronavirus in prison and jails. A criminal justice, public policy, and right-leaning organizations on Thursday, March 19th, launched an initiative to urge local, state, and federal correctional facilities to enact sweeping measures to prevent the spread of the coronavirus among incarcerated populations. The groups are working with governors in 21 states and federal agencies to enact changes, including limiting physical contact in prisons and jails, providing greater access to medical care and equipment for inmates and staff, using alternatives to incarceration for those who are of low public safety risk, and providing remote alternatives to parole or probation supervision. Now, Jessica Jackson, who is Chief Advocacy Officer at the Reform Alliance, which is one of the groups leading the effort, said, quote, "We believe there's a real chance that our prisons and jails could become a hotbed of the virus and spread the disease back into our communities." Now, the initiative, named the Safer Plan, is promoted by a number of groups that have been working on other criminal justice policy changes, such as the bipartisan First Step Act of 2018, aimed at improving reentry programs. Now, the groups included the Koch by the Koch brothers, but there's only one brother now because one died. Americans for Prosperity, American Conservative Union, and the National Urban League. State and federal officials are already taking steps to improve jail and prison conditions recommended in the Safer Plan, Jessica Jackson said, including providing free phone calls for inmates in lieu of visitation, suspending co-pays for medical services in prison, and suspending transfers between correctional facilities. Okay, so check that out as well. Okay, so Senate Republicans introduced a $1 trillion fiscal package to blunt the economic pain from the coronavirus, which includes sending direct cash payments to Americans. Individuals who make up to $75,000 or joint filers who make up to $150,000 will be eligible for $1,200 per person. Americans will receive an additional $500 for every child. The amount decreases incrementally for higher earners and phases out completely for those who earn more than $99,000 individually or $198,000 jointly. In addition to the direct financial aid to Americans, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, also known as Moscow Mitch McConnell, Republican from Kentucky, who's up for re-election November 3rd, 2020, needs to be voted out of office. He said that the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act will also guarantee loans to small businesses and financial bailouts which are too hard hit industries like the airlines. Now, if Senate Republicans did their job on February 5th, February 6th, and voted to remove Donald Trump from office, a good portion of this stuff could have been avoided. Because even though Mike Pence is horrible, he's more competent than Donald Trump is. Even though Mike Pence is horrible, he's more competent. A lot of this stuff, if Senate Republicans, they knew he was guilty. They stood on the Senate floor and talked about what he did was wrong, but it didn't rise to the level of removal from office. Yes, it did. If they had done their job, a lot of this could have been avoided. A lot of them are going to be voted out of office also, and they should be, because they violated their oath to defend the Constitution against enemies, both foreign and domestic. In addition to the direct financial aid to Americans, Senator Mitch McConnell said the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act will also guarantee loans to small business and financial bailouts to hard-hit industries like the airlines. Now, this proposal is just a starting point for negotiations with Democrats over how best to prop up the U.S. economy during this crippling public health crisis. Moscow Mitch McConnell said we need to take further steps to continue addressing our nation's healthcare needs, and we need to help protect American workers, families, and small business from this unique economic crisis that threatens to worsen with every single day. We need to have the American people's backs. Well, one way you can have the American people's back, Moscow Mitch McConnell, is tell Donald Trump to tell Attorney General William Barr to drop his lawsuit to try to repeal the entire Affordable Health Care Act, because the Department of Justice is in court now, and the U.S. Supreme Court is going to take up the case after the November 2020 election. The Trump Department of Justice is trying to sue to repeal the entire Affordable Health Care Act, including pre-existing conditions. The entire Affordable Health Care Act. The Affordable Health Care Act gave health care to 3 million non-elderly African Americans who did not already have health care. So if you want to help the American people, then what you can do is stop trying to repeal the Affordable Health Care Act and help implement the Medicaid expansion, build upon it. Because it's saving a lot of people's lives, especially dealing with pre-existing conditions, and you can't be denied health insurance because of pre-existing conditions. So in response to the Senate Republicans' offer, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said sign off from Democrats will require a bill that includes, quote, new, strong, and strict provisions that prioritize and protect workers, such as banning the recipient companies from buying back stock, rewarding executives, and laying off workers, end quote. Because when you look at what Democrats are proposing, that benefits the everyday people much more than what Republicans are proposing. If you go look at what Democrats are proposing, what Republicans are proposing, what Democrats are proposing benefits everyday people much more than what Republicans are proposing. We look forward to working in bipartisan way to deliver for the American people as soon as humanly possible, Nancy Pelosi said. So there was let's see, we got the article here. That's a synopsis of it in the updates from the Washington Post. Let's look at all right, how you doing, Anthony? How's everybody doing on YouTube and Facebook? Everybody share this broadcast. Also, if you like this type of information, you can support the African History Network. $sign the AHN show through Cash App, $sign the AHN show through Cash App, or paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show through PayPal. So you could donate there. And through PayPal, if you want to set up for a recurring monthly donation, you can do that as well. Senate Republicans release massive economic stimulus bill for coronavirus response. Senate Republicans release massive economic stimulus bill for coronavirus response. That's from Washington Post, March 19th, 2020. NBC News also has an article dealing with what's in the Senate Republicans bill. Okay, and then lastly here, let's look at this for a quick minute here, and we're going to get out of here. This deals with the early warnings. New York Times had a big article dealing with the early warnings of the coronavirus. And this is from March 19th. Before virus outbreak, a cascade of warnings went unheeded. Before virus outbreak, a cascade of warnings went unheeded. Government exercises, including one last year, made clear that the U.S. was not ready for a pandemic like the coronavirus, but little was done. Now, if you saw my broadcast from March 18th, 2020, I talked about how there was a former Obama official who was involved in the transition team. They were helping the Trump administration transition in. This is from thehill.com. This is from March 17th, 2020. Obama officials walked Trump aides through global pandemic exercise in 2017. Obama officials walked Trump aides through global pandemic exercise in 2017. Okay, we talked about this in the March 18th broadcast. The Obama administration walked incoming Trump administration officials through a hypothetical scenario in which a pandemic worse than the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, which shut down cities in Seoul, Korea, and London, England. They did this hypothetical scenario in 2017. This was reported by Politico.com. During the briefing, Trump administration officials were told such a pandemic would likely lead to circumstances such as shortages of ventilators, and that a coordinated national response would be paramount, according to documents obtained by Politico. Of the Trump administration officials present during the meeting, about 66% no longer serve in the White House, according to Politico. That's reporting from thehill.com. Okay, so read that article. Let's see here. This is freezing up. Okay, let's continue. So let's look at this briefly here from New York Times. Before virus outbreak, a cascade of warnings went unheeded. So this is from March 19th, 2020. So it starts out with a scenario, a hypothetical. The outbreak of the respiratory virus began in China and was quickly spread around the world by air travelers who ran high fevers. In the United States, it was first detected in Chicago, and 47 days later, the World Health Organization declared a pandemic. By then, it was too late. 110 million Americans were expected to become ill, leading to 7.7 million hospitalized and 586,000 dead. Okay, so this is a hypothetical. Okay, this is a hypothetical. This was a hypothetical scenario that they were running through. All right, how's everybody doing? Okay, so the scenario codenamed Crimson Contagion. The scenario codenamed Crimson Contagion and imagining an influenza pandemic was simulated by the Trump administration's Department of Health and Human Services in a series of exercises that ran from January 2020, last January, it had to be from January 2019 through August 2019. The simulation's sobering results, contained in a draft report dated October 2019 that has not previously been reported, drove home just how just how underfunded, drove home just how underfunded, underprepared, and uncoordinated the federal government would be for a life or death battle with a virus for which no treatment existed. The draft report, marked not to be disclosed, laid out in stark detail repeated cases of confusion, quote unquote, confusion in the exercise. Federal agencies jockeyed over who was in charge. State officials and hospitals struggled to figure out what kind of equipment was stockpiled or available. Cities and states went their own ways on school closings. Many of the potentially deadly consequences of a failure to address the shortcomings are now playing out in an all too real fashion across the country. And it was hardly the first warning for the nation's leaders. Three times over the past 4 years, the US government across 2 administrations had grappled in depth with what a pandemic would look like, identifying likely shortcomings, and in some cases recommending specific action. In 2016, the Obama administration produced a comprehensive report of lessons learned by the government from battling Ebola. In January 2017, outgoing Obama administration officials ran an extensive exercise on responding to a pandemic for incoming senior officials of the Trump administration. The full story of the Trump administration's response to the coronavirus is still playing out. Government officials, health professionals, journalists, and historians will spend years looking back on the muddled messages and missed opportunities of the past 3 months. As Donald Trump moved from dismissing the coronavirus as a few cases that would soon be, quote unquote, under control, to his revisionist announcement on Monday that he had known all along that a pandemic was on the way. Maybe he did know a pandemic was on the way because Senator Richard Burr told the people at the Tar Heel Club about it. So if Donald Trump did know a pandemic was on the way, then why did you lie to the crowd in South Carolina February 28th and say it was the Democrats' new hoax? What the scenario makes clear, however, is that his own administration had already modeled a similar pandemic and understood its potential trajectory. The White House defended its record, saying it responded to the 2019 exercise with an executive order to improve the availability and quality of flu vaccines, in that it moved early this year to increase funding for the Department of Health and Human Services program that focuses on global pandemic threats. Any suggestion that President Trump did not take the threat of COVID-19 seriously is false, said Judd Deere, D-E-E-R-E, a White House spokesman. But officials have declined to say why the administration was so slow to roll out broad testing or to move faster, as the simulations all indicated it should, to urge social distancing and school closings. Why was the administration so slow to roll out broad testing or to move faster, as the simulations all indicated it should, to urge social distancing and school closings? Asked at his news briefing on Thursday, March 19th, 2020, about the government's preparedness, Donald Trump responded, "Nobody knew there would be a pandemic or epidemic of this proportion. Nobody has ever seen anything like this before. But you said you knew it was a pandemic before anybody was calling it a pandemic. And if you studied the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, and there was no vaccine, that happened before there was a vaccine for the flu, that gives you some indication of what was to come. The work done over the past the past 5 years, however, demonstrates that the government had considerable knowledge about the risks of a pandemic and accurately predicted the very types of problems Donald Trump is now scrambling belatedly to address. Crimson Contagion, the exercise conducted in 2019 in the state of Washington in 12 states, including New York and Illinois, showed that federal agencies under Donald Trump continued the Obama era effort to think ahead about a pandemic. The Crimson Contagion exercise conducted in 2019 in Washington and 12 states, including New York and Illinois, showed that federal agencies under Donald Trump continued the Obama era effort to think ahead about a pandemic. But the planning and thinking happened many layers down in the bureaucracy. The knowledge and sense of urgency about the peril appear never to have gotten sufficient attention at the highest level of the executive branch or from Congress, leaving the nation with funding shortfalls, equipment shortages like ventilators, and disorganization within and among various branches and levels of government. The October 2019 report in particular documents that officials at the Departments of Homeland Security and Health and Human Services, HHS, Health and Human Services, and even the White House National Security Council were aware of the potential for a respiratory virus outbreak originating in China to spread quickly to the United States and overwhelm the nation. Nobody ever thought of numbers like this, Donald Trump said on Wednesday, March 17th at a news conference. In fact, they had. The October 2019 report in particular documents that officials at the Department of Homeland Security and Health and Human Services, HHS, and even the White House's National Security Council were aware of the potential for a respiratory virus outbreak originating in China to spread quickly to the United States and overwhelm the nation. Read the rest of this article here. This is from New York Times. This is from March 19th, 2020. It's a long article. This is deep. As I said before, basically the overwhelming majority of this, if not all of this, was avoidable. The signs were there. The signs were ignored. Before virus outbreak, a cascade of warnings went unheeded. Government exercises, including one like last year, made clear that the U.S. was not ready for a pandemic like the coronavirus, but little was done. So March 19th, 2020, by David E. Sanger, Eric Lipton, Eileen Sullivan, and Michael Crowley for the New York Times. All right, who we have here? Got Greg and B. Buccaneer, Margaret. How's everybody doing? Anthony. Okay, so everybody follow us on our Marnice. How you doing, Marnice? Erie Blackfire, Brad, Kenneth, T. Lynn. Okay, so if you like this type of information, also you could donate to the African History Network. $ the AHN show through Cash App. $ the AHN show through Cash App. That helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting. Then also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show. Follow us on our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP on YouTube. Follow us there, and then also on Facebook, the African History Network on Facebook, and then on Twitter, the AHN show on Twitter. All of my DVD lectures are available at our website, africanhistorynetwork.com, africanhistorynetwork.com. We've got we have the Black Migration 1619 to 2019 bundle pack. It's a 6 DVD bundle pack, and it's also on digital download format. We've got my 15 DVD Black History Month bundle pack, which is a really good bargain. It's on sale $100, regularly like $250. African American business owners, post name your business here on the broadcast. Email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com, customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. And we have our current promotion is buy 1 month, get 2 months free. We'll let you know how you can advertise with us. We can get you up and running today. The book Black Heroes of Fire, tells a story about Engine Number 21, which was Chicago's first organized paid African-American firefighting company. Find out about the heroism of Engine Number 21 in the book Black Heroes of Fire, the history of the first African-American fire company in Chicago by author DeKalb Walcott Jr. It's available right now at Amazon.com, and BlackHeroesOfFire.com, BlackHeroesOfFire.com. Now, a lot of people are still traveling. You may not be flying. Flights are dirt cheap right now. You may not be flying, you may drive, but when you travel in style and carry your culture with you with BlackLionLeather.com. BlackLionLeather.com is an African-American owned company, and they have unique leather travel accessories. Their tagline, their motto is carry your culture, carry your culture. Visit their website, BlackLionLeather.com. And you can see the accessories that they have there. Let them know that you found out about this from the African History Network. And next time you travel, you can carry your culture with you with accessories from BlackLionLeather.com. Now, a lot of people are focused on health products. Sage and Elm Apothecary can help you with this. They create unique products, especially with you in mind. They use simple ingredients such as whole fruits, herbs, and vegetables. Each product crafted offers a unique plant-based experience. So they have over 60 different products, which include beautifully handcrafted soaps, natural toothpaste, hydrating oils, deodorant, face masks, shampoos, conditioners, and so much more. Visit their website, sageandelmapothecary.com, sageandelmapothecary.com, APOTHECARY. You can order their products there. They have them, you can see them and order them there, but also find out about their pop-up shops and vending events throughout the year. Use promo code AHNSpring20, AHNSpring20, and get 20% off your order. Okay, look, guys, hey, we had to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior. You see me wearing one of my Black Panther t-shirts, okay, because you see the Black Panther poster behind me. Because the word, you know, I have a lot of lectures dealing with the film Black Panther, but the word Wakanda is a real word. Wakanda is an ancient word. Wakanda is, we see Wakanda in Native American languages like Omaha Ponca and Sioux Indian language. It means possesses secret powers. We also know Wakanda is a Bantu word. Bantu is a group of 500 African languages spoken in Southern Africa, East Africa, like Kenya, all the way into Central West Africa, like Cameroon. Okay. And we know the word Kanda is a Kikongo word. Kanda means family, and Kikongo is a Bantu language. Kiswahili is a Bantu language as well. So the word Kwanzaa is a Bantu word. Okay. And Wakanda is also a Bantu word. I'm not exactly sure specifically which language it's from. I've done a lot of research on this. I did a lot of research to be able to do my lectures dealing with the film Black Panther. Okay. So we have to get out of here. Remember, right now is correct. Wrong behavior is not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you next time. Peace. Thanks for tuning in. And listen to our podcasts of our shows, our audio podcasts of our shows. We have those available at, if you go to wherever you get your podcast from, search for the African History Network show, the African History Network show, wherever you get your podcast from. And then also at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, right on the homepage, click on the yellow, click on listen to podcasts. Okay. And that takes you to our Blog Talk Radio page. We have about 1,000 audio podcasts there going back to 2010. Okay, but we're on iTunes, Castbox, Acast, Stitcher, TuneIn. We're on 8 different audio podcast platforms that I know of. Okay, so check those out as well. Okay, and then tune into our Sunday night show, the African History Network show, Sundays 9-11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we broadcast on our YouTube channel, Facebook as well. All right, guys, we'll talk to y'all later. Take care. Have a good day.